I'm Magnus Hyttsten. I work for Google. I live in London, California. I've been working with Android for the past 6 months. Prior to that, I worked with the Google Cloud Platform and also the Google Apps and Drive Suite. I've been with Google about 1 year. I'm native Swedish, as you probably hear from my English accent. And my specialty within the Android suite is Google Play Services. How many of you know what Google Play Services is to begin with? Yeah, that's good. That's good. In fact, many people hear about Google Play Services, but they don't really know what it is because they specialize in certain APIs when they develop. But I'm here to talk about the entire family of APIs within Google Play Services and why they make a lot of sense to use. To do a little bit of recap, these numbers are from Google I/O from Sundar Pichai that were holding the keynote speech. Right now we have about, to set the scene, we have about 1 billion 30-day active users on Android. That's absolutely fantastic. This number has grown, doubled for the last 4 years, okay? From 125 million to 250 million to 500 million, and now we're up to 1 billion 30-day active users, an amazing number. So it's, without any question, Android, by the number of devices being used, is by far the most popular operating system. We have 20 billion text messages being sent to the Android system every single day. There are 90 million selfies taken per day with an Android phone, right? And
it's like, how do you know that?
they did some analysis, and apparently a lot of them are ducks also. And one interesting aspect is that there are about 100 billion times that people actually bring out their phone and look at it for various purposes, either launching an app or just checking the time, etc. And we're trying to do something about that because that's a lot of wear and tear on the clothes, right? So specifically about Google Play Services. Google Play Services, we believe it rocks. And why does it rock? Well, it has all of these APIs that are available on all of these phones that are running, Android phones of course, that are running Gingerbread or later. So Froyo is not supported, but all the devices running Gingerbread and later, and that are connected to Google Play Store. That's why it's called Google Play Services. It's attached to Google Play Store. So that's also right here. And that's a lot of devices out there. We're talking more than 1 billion devices out there in the world. And the third thing why Google Play Services is so amazing is that it's being released. You may not notice it, but it's actually being released very frequently. Every 6 or 8 weeks or so, you will have an update of Google Play Services. So what happens is that Google developers and the different API groups are packing stuff into these releases, and that then gets pushed to all of these devices, more than 1 billion devices in the world. So why does this matter? I mean, why would you care? Well, I'll tell you why you would care. Because it allows you to get the latest stuff, right? Us to get the latest stuff to you developers very, very quickly. And that runs on almost all of the devices in the world, right? So we'll go into some more details about what these APIs actually consist of. But to give you a perspective of that, if you look at the number of Google Play devices connected to Google Play Store, we're talking about 98% of the devices that we can reach with Google Play Services. That stuff gets updated every 8 weeks. So how does this work? Well, if you have your phone here, this is not a really high-res picture I see now, but it is what it is. So we have the Google Play Store, and through the Google Play Store, we push updates to the Google Play Services APK that you can actually check on your phone. How many of you have checked it on your phone? Okay. And that APK, you make a dynamic runtime binding from your APK. So that code is not being compiled into your APK, but rather you're calling it the APK, the Google Play Services APK from your apps. There's an SDK to manage the static compilation process when you're building your app. But when you're deploying it, you're actually making a call into the Google Play Services runtime provisioned on the phone. These are statistics coming out of the Google Play Store. So this is the official Google Play Store. I think that Google Play Services is probably the most popular app on Google Play Store. If you look at that number, it's 1 billion to 5 billion deployments, right? PR didn't allow me to use that slide on Google I/O, but I'm using it. So what does it consist of? So if we look at the umbrella of Google Play Services, it has social, Google Plus and Google Plus Sign In is one of the APIs. It has Maps. The entire Map suite is contained within Google Play Services family. There is cloud integration. Cloud endpoints is part of Google Play Services. Google Drive, location and context, activity recognition, play game services, commerce in the form of AdMob, and also Google Wallet, and also there is a cast API for you to be able to cast stuff from your app over to, or to interact with a Chromecast enabled device. And how do you use this? Well, it's all connected together. So these APIs, there is a uniform connectivity connectivity mechanism that you can use in your app to connect to these different APIs. So this is an example of a code snippet that builds a Google API client and then connects the activity recognition drive games API to your application. And you're now ready to go and start to use them. And if the user's downloading your application and your application is requesting these, you see that we have the scopes there, scope drive, which is the most liberal scope you can get for drive, and also scope games as part of the connectivity. And that makes your application ask for user consent to be able to use these different scopes. Okay? So it's very, very easy. They're all connected together in this easy way. And then, of course, the different APIs have their different classes and methods that you can use. And now, in fact, I don't know, how many of you are aware that Google Play Services 6.1 was released yesterday? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. How do you find out? Do you see the blog, or do you see the videos, or do you see the Google Plus post? Google Plus, yeah. That's predominantly the mechanism by which people see that new releases are being pushed out, plus Android developers. As of yesterday, Google Fit is actually part of Google Play Services. So all of the APIs that related to Google Fit is now actually public out there, available to be used. And these libraries, the APIs, have been pushed to 100% of these devices being ready to use. The only thing that's remaining, it's still in developer preview. We have not opened the way to publish your own apps through Google Play Store. Okay? So that's coming as part of the official launch later on. But now it's high time to start to investigate these APIs. There is no need to flash any devices in order to use this anymore. You can use your standard Google Play Store enabled device and actually test your applications locally on your device with Google Fit. So that's quite cool. So all of these APIs, they provide a lot of values, and that's why we think that Google Play Services rocks. And as part of every release of Google Play Services, we record some of them are crazy videos, some of them are less crazy. But we try to spin off on this Google Play Services rocks by using different weird stuff. Okay. So let me go into some specifics about the API. So you probably heard about the Android Wear data API, which was released at Google Play Services. Google I/O this year in June. So this is the first time I'm actually wearing a watch for the past 15 years, right? Because before this watch was available, I was just pulling out my phone out of my pocket. And that's why I saw this number of 100 billion times that people check their phones every single day, right? But now there's no need to do that because you have a mini version of Android right here on your wrist. And there are a lot of devices are coming out. You can check the Google Play Store. There's a lot of devices available already. And you can do quite a lot of, how many of you have used an Android wearable? Okay. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can do a lot of things. First of all, it's completely integrated into Google Now. So all of the suggestion cards that you have in Google Now, they will become available on your watch. You can read emails, you can archive emails, and you'll get directions integrated into it. You have all of Google Now integrated into it also, so you can actually talk to it. And it is also a controller, so you can actually control your Android device from your wearable. Okay, so there's a good integration there as well. So you can use, for example, your Android wearable device as a controller for the media player that's playing on the phone. All right. So I can say this. I mean, if you have existing apps, you have to start to think about this, because those apps need to be developed to be able to support the wearable devices out there. And as part of Google Play Services, this was the last release in Google Play Services, we added an API, which is now part of all the Android phones, which is called the Android Wear Data API. And that consists of 3 different types of ways to interact or send messages between your Android wearable and your Android phone. First one is a message API. This is a control API to send notifications or to send control signals. For example, the media player that you can pause it from your phone, and that will pause it on the actual Android device. So it's a control interface between the wearable and the phone. The second one is an asset API. So an asset is like an image. It's a payload of, for example, media, an image or a short video clip or whatever. So it's a lot more data than just a control message. Then you can use the asset API to exchange that between the phone and the device. The third API, which is part of the DataWare API, is a data item. And the data item will enable data to be in sync between the wearable and the phone all the time. So when you have stamped it as being a data item, it will make sure that it is in sync between the device and the phone at all times. All right. Any questions so far? We can take questions as we go along, or we can take them later on also. So let's move over to the buying experience. And you're going to be a little bit disappointed. I'm going to try to make you a little bit more comfortable around this. But we've done a lot of work on 3 areas predominantly when it comes to the buying experience. People buying things on mobile technology. It's with respect to identity, payment, and data entry. And the 3 different API technologies within Google Play Services that we have to address these things is, first of all, Google Plus Sign-In. How many of you are using Google Plus Sign-In? All right. There's also the capability to use Facebook Sign-In now. They actually extended it to be able to support that also. So it's quite interesting. So that's also part of Google Play Services now. Then there is payment, and unfortunately it is the case that, then there's Google Wallet, and unfortunately it is the case that Google Wallet is still just a US product, right? But that will probably change. That's what I can say. No, but it's worthwhile to take a look at it. I can tell you my experience in the US when I use Google Wallet. It's absolutely amazing. When I walk into the corresponding of ICA in Safeway in California, it shows me a notification saying you're now in Safeway, because there's geofencing on the different stores and the loyalty programs you're in. So your entire payment is tied to the areas of the store, etc. We'll see some examples of this later on. It's really, really exciting. And the third part is data entry. For example, managing addresses and managing scanning credit card numbers, OCR numbers. Because one problem with mobile devices is data entry. I mean, look at this picture. This is horrendous, right? These are actually my thumbs on this device right here. How is anyone expected to enter their shipping address like this? It's a horrendous experience. I've seen teenagers can probably do that, but I can't. One thing that's cool, though, that I really like with the Android device is the swiping motion. Before I joined Google, I actually used Apple, but I do swipe a lot, right? That's great. And what you can do now in Google Play Services with the Identity API, it's called, is actually have addresses pre-registered, right? So you can enter your address one time, and then from your app, you can actually ask for an address that exists, that has been entered using the Identity API, through the Identity API. So that means that there is no longer the requirement for every single app to build their own address entry user interface, they can simply use the identity part instead. So here you can see that the Awesome Bike Store app is requesting an address, and you're selecting John Doe at this particular road. Another one is credit card. Same thing there. Instead of just pounding out in credit card numbers, etc., you can just take a photo of a credit card, and that will be automatically registered as part of Google Wallet. So therefore, you have your credit cards already scanned and available, and that means that when they need to be used, the user can simply select which card to be used, and it's centrally located. As part of the last week's Google Play Services also, the Buy with Google button. This is Google Wallet, right? The Buy with Google button was made really easy to integrate into your application. So here you can see the Awesome Bike Store enabling the purchase of this conference bike using the Buy with Google button. And I actually have a demonstration here. I hope it works. So this is now a user using the Awesome Bike Store. Has never used it before, so it doesn't have a pre-registered account at all. And he or she will go into the site, select the bike, buy the bike, and have it shipped to their home address, and it will take 12 seconds.
Yeah. What's the difference between Buy with Wallet and an in-app purchase?
In-app purchase is for virtual goods. So that's part of the AdMob framework. So it's for virtual goods. Let's see here. So here we go. The user signs in with Google Plus, selects the account to be used to sign in. So it's now a registered user. Selects the adjustable like to buy with Google, and then confirm the order, and it's now shipped to the home address. So there you go, right? All of these hassles around entering your credit card, where should it go? I am a new user, which username should I select? Confirming the email address. All of that stuff is gone, right? That's what a shopping experience could be like. So let's move over and talk about the selling experience. And especially since I moved to the US, one huge problem is that every single store has their own loyalty card program. But every single store also requires you to store this card in your wallet, right? If I accepted every single offer of a loyalty program, I would be carrying around a wallet that I wouldn't be able to sit on a chair probably. So I say no to all of these programs. Well, with Google Wallet now, together with all the functionality we've already seen, it's now possible to save card to Google. That means that you can save all your loyalty cards electronically in your device instead. So the card will have the OCR number, and through NFC or OCR scanning, you can simply show the card to the store. You don't need to carry it around anymore. And apps can also have these buttons added to them, in which case, if the store is stored as a loyalty card in the phone, Save Card to Google enables, for example, a store to send coupons to users, right? So you can now have electronic coupons as well. There's no need to carry around all of these papers for the different stores. And as I told you before, when I'm walking into a superstore like Ica or something, it will actually detect that I'm in that store. It will know the coupons that I have registered on my phone. I can make use of them immediately without having to fiddle around with loyalty program cards and or coupons. Everything is done electronically and within the context of where you are. That's pretty amazing. And of course, this makes the merchants happy, right? Because they can reach a large number of people, and people don't have, it makes the customer happy because they don't need to carry around all of this stuff in order to purchase and make use of these coupons. And of course, it makes the developers happy because the developers are connecting the merchants with the customers, right? So that's a win-win-win situation. So start to check out Google Wallet because it's quite exciting. And another thing is analytics. So Google Analytics you've probably heard about. How many have used Google Analytics on Android? That's pretty good also, guys. Guys and girls. I'm in Sweden now. When I do this in the US, I get few hands. So Google Analytics, that API allows you to send information from your apps on how your app is being used by the users. And that's extremely useful, of course, because you can see what the users are doing and therefore increase customer satisfaction when using your app. But you can also detect what's going on with your app so you can optimize in order to make more money, for example, if that's what you're after. As part of the 6.1 release that we released yesterday, we have enhanced e-commerce being integrated in to the Analytics API in Google Play Services. So what is enhanced e-commerce? Well, you can start to track entire flow. Okay, for example, a purchasing flow that is not necessarily just limited to that. So if we take one example, you can do a shopping behavior analysis. So on the left-hand side here, you can see that we have 19,485 sessions. That's great, right? But 13,880 of them did not result in any shopping activity. Okay, so those are dropped out initially. But there were 5,455 sessions that actually resulted in product fees. Okay? But 4,784 of those did not result in anything being added to the shopping cart. But there were 559 sessions that actually resulted in a checkout. But 501 of those were actually abandoned. So as you can see in the end, we have 64 sessions out of 19,485 original ones that actually went through the entire purchasing flow to actually buy something. So that's extremely valuable data, right? Because now you can start to see how important is it, for example, for your users or customers to view the product use page before they actually buy something. So that's all brand new as part of 6.1. Mobile ads allows you to do, so obviously it allows you to display ads, right? But you can now also from these ads directly purchase virtual goods. So it's a very, very simple way of buying things directly from the ad, not just displaying the ad. And these can also be targeted to certain user segments. So you can have a little bit of segmentation on what is being shown to what user. Okay, moving on to Play Game Services. Play Game Services is a platform API that can be used by all games out there. So it contains basic infrastructure components for games development. So it has multiplayer capability, it has achievements and leaderboards and stuff like that. And there's a gaming profile that you're probably aware of within the MFO. How many of you have opened the Play Game Services app? I play Plants vs. Zombies a lot. And I saw a couple of weeks ago that they started using Play Game Services. And I was really thrilled about it. That was actually the first time I started using it. To take a couple of things that we've added to this API, one was the game gifts part that was added a couple of releases ago. So you can now send wish requests. So a user can send a wish request. And another user can send a gift request to meet that wish request. And then, of course, the person requesting the gift becomes very happy. So this increases collaboration between the players, right? So you now have multiple users collaborating and working together.
Yes, when you are going to release this for iOS also?
Sorry?
For iOS?
iOS?
It's only for Android this moment.
Sorry?
The game GIF is only for Android. But,
I believe it's only for Android, yes.
You know where it's going to be available for iOS? No.
I don't know. And this is the thing. I mean, it's Google Play Services. So it's tied to Google Play Store.
No, it's also for iOS.
Yeah, but
the
those
Google
are
game.
Yeah, those are individual APIs. So it has its own shape in there. No, I'm not sure. You need to check out the landing pages of Play Game Services for that. I know they're starting to shoot some material on the Google Game APIs and iOS, so you should watch out for that because that will come later on. All right, recent functionality, of course, the gamer profile, which ties to leaderboards and achievements. Save game progress. You can now save your games on your phone, pick up the tablet, and it will continue with the game from exactly where you left off. And then quests. So events and quests are very useful because you can create very cool things in your games. For example, kill 5,000 zombies using a spoon before Sunday 8 p.m., in which case you won't be doing anything else during the weekend. And so that, of course, can lead to an achievement, obviously. So these events, you can then, in your games, you can set trigger points where events should be generated. And those trigger points, you can then create quests. So if all of those trigger points happen, then the quest has been satisfied. App indexing API. How many of you have heard of that? Okay. This is actually, from my perspective, it's a very, very important thing that has happened on Android phones lately. The app indexing API allows you from your application, natively in your application, report data and information that becomes available to GSA, the Google search application. So if the user is using your application, you're reporting stuff through this API, that may actually show up when the user is doing a search in Google search. Yes?
Aren't you concerned about the data being generated?
Yes. Yes, and there's a lot of work being done on that. I don't know the details, but I know there were a lot of work being done on it. Let me show you a demo from Google I/O on this. What happens here is that they're actually doing a search for ferry building marketplace, and they've actually been, the user here using this app has been in the ferry building marketplace, or they have at least used the Google Earth application. You see that, the Google Earth application? And that's actually a search completion you see there for the ferry building marketplace. So that shows up. Oh, it's not a demo, this is code.
Maybe it should be
Alright. Come on. Alright. Okay, so here we are. So you can see when they're entering the ferry, they're starting to search for the ferry building. It actually shows up. You have the Google Earth icon right next to it. So the user can now click directly on that entry there, attaching to Google Earth, and it brings you into the application immediately. Okay, and you can see what you did. You actually did a view on the Google ferry building there. So everything in your apps can now suddenly be part of Google search as well. And we're not talking only a static scan of your app. That has been possible before. But with this API, you can actually report dynamic information that becomes available in Google search. All right? Any questions on that?
Was the search on the logo, or it was maybe I misinterpreted you, and I thought you are receiving the central service system search on the web or something?
Yes, yes. But it's tied to your context here. Yes. So it will identify, because when you search, it is remembering what you have been searching for. So if you're searching there, it's correlating that with what has been reported with the app indexing API, and then ties these things together. So I'm thinking TV channels, I'm thinking newspapers, I'm thinking all of that stuff, right? that the user is exploring when they're using your apps, right? When they search for that later on, they don't want to know about what app they were in. That app will automatically show up in Google search application.
Question?
Yeah?
So you're saying if I report something from my app to Google API and the user searches for something similar in Google now, Google app can link and launch an application?
Yes, correct. Google search and Google search application will, by having that row down there that actually contain the Google Earth icon, if you click on that, it will actually launch Google Earth.
Yeah,
And
and
bring
it
in-
can launch our apps as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. That was just an example using a Google application. That's available to any kind of app. Google Cast was introduced in February 2014. So that means essentially that every single device now becomes a remote control of all of the Cast, the Chromecast entities that are out there, right? You can now control all of the Chromecast entities using your mobile phone. And you can add that to your apps by using this particular API. Google Drive, this was the original thing I worked on. Google Drive now has a native API within Android. And that means essentially that all of the users be using your app, you can now start to interact with their cloud storage, the Google Drive cloud storage, essentially. You start to work with these APIs together, you start to develop some very interesting scenarios, right? So you got all of the files using Google Drive, and you got the controller of all the Chromecast devices that are out there. And you can develop some really cool applications. The same thing with games. Imagine using games together with the Google Fit and API, for example. And that brings us to the next one, which is activity. So an Android device, as you may be aware of, is capable, or was capable of detecting if you were on a bicycle, vehicle, tilting still, or on foot. And as part of Longhorn, which was released as part of 5.0, that was released on Google I/O, walking and running was also added to this family. So now you can think about the opportunities there. You have Google Fit together with Play Game Services together with this activity recognition. What kind of cool applications can you create if you combine all of these APIs together? All of those are part of Google Play Services and are working through the same fine connectivity code that I showed you earlier. And then Maps, there was some, so Maps were originally released as part of December 2012, the version 2.0 of the API. And since then, we added indoor maps. So indoor maps is now also part of the native Android API, as you can use. So you can navigate through airports and stuff. And also in May, I believe, we added Street View. So Street View is also now natively incorporated into the Maps API of Google Play Services. So all of this imagery that you see, these can be native things going on in your app, right? If you use these APIs. So that integrates with Maps, goes over to the imagery that's part of Street View, and it becomes part of the experience that your users see in your application. And that can bring you to a lot of places. Just recently, there's a lot of these Street View APIs that are being added. This is one that was introduced earlier this year, the Pupa'a Coral Reef in the Philippines. So you can swim around here and check out this reef, right? You can also visit the base camp of Mount Everest and walk around there and check it out. All of that stuff, all the imagery, all of the navigation of that, that's available to you in your applications using these APIs. So now you can start to think about that if you combine that stuff, plus the indoor API, plus the Play Game Services API, plus the activity recognition, plus the Google Fit. You can create some very cool apps. And that's exactly what Google Play Services is. It's about getting the latest stuff that we develop in Google, okay? Get that stuff to you as quickly as possible and make it run on almost all of the devices out there. And this is relentless. Every second month or so, there will be a new version of Google Play Services being pushed to over 1 billion devices out there, and every single release will be packed with new stuff that you can use to enhance your applications.
Was your new releases
there is no plan to change the API function. It's just gonna fix the bug when we get something, right? That would require the app to be changed and put the one
No.
in the server.
Typically, the deprecation policy is quite generous. There are deprecations going on, yes. You'll certainly see those in compiled processes. However, there's a very, very, what do you call it? Long time period from the point where it's actually being deprecated to the point where it doesn't work anymore. So you'll have plenty of time to convert around. But you should, of course, if you get deprecation warnings, you should try to address them as soon as possible. But we're talking months, if not half year, years, before deprecation actually happens. Not even months, half year to years is probably reasonable. All right, question here?
Yeah, so what are you guys doing against the tax method limit and Google Play services?
Okay. Very good question. So, so what are we doing with the tax limit?
Because now we're like using, you have to use like jar to.
Yeah, or ProGuard.
Oh, well, yeah, you can't do that on debugger. So we're
Exactly.
going for our own jar
Complicated.
for Google Play
Yes.
services.
I mean, the very nice answer to that is going Android L, because as part of Android L, there's a completely new runtime. So Dolby is gone. That's actually one of the slides I had here. If you wanted to have a little bit of update on Android L, what's going on. These are just very highlights. The Android L is a massive release. It contains a lot of different things, so you need to follow what's going on there. But you see the performance art, that's a completely new VM runtime. It's called Art, it's 64-bit enabled, it has huge performance and memory utilization benefits over Dolby. That's the simple answer, right? But it's not an answer that allows you to be compatible all the way down to gingerbread. So what is happening in Google Play Services is that rather than having this massive jar file that gets compiled into your APK, we are segmenting the yard file. So you don't have to pick the big one. You can actually selectively pick the ones that you need. But it is a continuous problem. I get the question all the time. So,
When is that going to be available?
that is imminent. Yes.
More questions?
I guess you can do it already if you unpack the jar and repackage it based on the static compilation errors you get.
That's kind
Because-
of what we're doing.
Is that what you're doing?
We're using like a tool called jar,
Yeah.
I think, so you can
Yeah.
like fuck around with it, but it's not.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why the 65. I didn't join. This happened before I joined Google. No, but no, it's a very stupid limit, 64K, because I mean, with the amount of code today, I mean, it's obvious that you will hit this limit very quickly. Now, but the option right now is yes, go down manual and just bring in whatever you need in order to get it statically compiled and then bridge it over to the runtime.
What were you thinking?
I'm finished now, yes.